I'm Emily and I manage the marketing department at a software startup in Boston. My life altered 6 years ago when my older sister Natalie's marriage failed. For years, Natalie and her husband, Mark, had a horrible relationship because he was emotionally aloof, immature, and self-centered. He essentially disappeared from their son Aiden's life after they got divorced. When it occurred, Aiden was just 10 years old. He lost his house, his father, and his feeling of security all at once. Despite having a respectable profession, Mark claimed financial hardship and refused to pay appropriate child support. After a few months, he stopped phoning Aiden, and the infrequent checks he did send weren't sufficient to cover even the necessities. Aiden and Natalie were forced to live with our parents. Naturally, Mom and Dad welcomed them. They gave Natalie their extra room and converted the basement into Aiden's bedroom. Although they could give a roof over their heads, our parents, who are retired teachers on fixed incomes, were unable to offer much financial assistance. I had just started my first serious job after college at that point. I was living in my own rented apartment downtown and finally earning a fair income. It wasn't much, but I enjoyed being independent, and it was mine. I was looking forward to developing my career, investing for the future, and living the good life as a young professional. The Sunday meal at my folks' residence followed. I will always remember that. Mom, Dad, Aiden, Natalie, and I were all seated around the table. As Aiden explained his science project to us, I recall being pleased that he appeared to be settling in. Aiden was playing video games in the living room after dessert when my dad cleared his throat. "We need to discuss something important, Emily," he added. Mom folded her hands on the table and nodded. "It has to do with Natalie's circumstances." My sister was staring down at her plate when I looked at her. Dad went on, "Natalie is going through a really difficult time. She managed to land a job at that department shop, although it pays very little. Additionally, Aiden needs new clothes and school supplies because he is growing up so quickly." Mom said, "We were thinking that because you're doing so well at your new work, perhaps you could lend a hand to your sister a little bit?" Really, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't opposed to helping, and I had been anticipating something similar. Aiden was my only nephew and Natalie was my sister. "Yes," I said. "I am able to assist. Let's say $600 a month." For me, it was a substantial sum, but if I reduced some of my own spending, I could afford it. Natalie's expression instantly lit up with relief. Tears filled her eyes as she continued, That would help so much. I'm grateful." I suddenly started to regularly contribute to Natalie and Aiden's life. I deposited $600 into Natalie's account each month. It became second nature to me, like paying my utilities or rent. Aiden required more than just the fundamentals as he grew older. He was interested in learning various languages and wanted to study programming. I also paid for such classes because I believed they would be excellent interests for his future. I gave him the PlayStation 5 he had been lusting after for his 11th birthday. I felt like all the additional effort I was putting in was worthwhile when he opened it and his face lit up. I got him a brand new smartphone for his 12th birthday the following year. I generally went all out for Christmas, getting him a tablet, some excellent headphones, or whatever he was into that year. Despite his parents' divorce, I wanted him to have beautiful things. After a while, Natalie and Aiden found a modest 2-bedroom apartment and left our parents' house. To get them established, I assisted with the security deposit and the first 3 months' rent. I would frequently stop by and bring them groceries or take them out to eat. Natalie frequently discussed her dating life at our family dinners, which took place at our parents' house at least twice a month. She met different men every week and switched between dating apps because she was determined to find someone fresh. She hardly ever talked about her work circumstances. Our parents told me that she was often changing jobs, working in retail establishments, in administration, and as a waitress, but she never stayed in one place long enough to establish a career. My money was used for luxuries for her and Aiden, while our parents were taking care of the majority of her basic expenses. My pay nearly doubled after I got a big raise at work a year after I began assisting Natalie. I was overjoyed and made the decision to stop renting and begin saving for a down payment on my own apartment. Dad inquired about work during the next family meal. I smiled and replied, "I have good news, actually. I was promoted. I'm currently considering saving money for a place of my own." Natalie's head jerked upward. "An advancement? What's the difference in your earnings?" Despite my hesitation, I gave an honest response. "It's almost double what I used to make." Natalie's eyes squinted a little. "Well, that means you can afford to help me twice as much too, right?" she continued, her voice gaining a sharpness I remembered from arguments as a child. $700 a month as opposed to $1,400? My water nearly swallowed me. What? That's not Natalie. It's only fair, she cut in. Aiden and I should also profit if you're earning twice as much. We are related. I glanced at my parents, expecting them to make a comment, to draw attention to the inappropriateness of this demand. Rather, both of them nodded. Mom muttered, your sister is right, Emily. Families support one another. Additionally, it's not as if you have to support your own children. I was in a tight spot. 3 sets of eyes were waiting and staring at me. After dining, Aiden went to a friend's house, so he was the only one missing. Actually, $1,500 would be preferable, Natalie remarked as she leaned forward. Aiden's programming classes are becoming more costly, and he will soon require braces. I nodded under pressure as if I had no other option. All right. $1,500 a month. However, I couldn't get rid of the feeling that something wasn't quite right with this arrangement as I drove home that evening. It seemed more like a duty, or worse, an expectation, than a way to help. Quickly, the new financial arrangement became comfortable. Each month, $1,500 went into Natalie's account and out of mine. I had to prolong my time frame for saving a down payment and reduce my personal spending, but I succeeded. It was only temporary, I reminded myself. Natalie would eventually get back on her feet and find a steady job. I brought a mid-range electric scooter to my parents' place for Aiden's 13th birthday. I felt compelled to establish boundaries. When Aiden opened it, he appeared quite happy, but Natalie sat in the corner all evening looking sullen. I doubt I had lived up to her standards. The pattern continued for the next 2 years. I continued to transfer money, but I became aware of several discrepancies. Natalie appeared to be spending more money on weekend getaways, new clothes, and regular dining out than her part-time retail job could afford, based on her social media posts. I was working longer hours, taking on more jobs, and gradually saving money for a place of my own in the meantime. I was able to purchase my first apartment at the age of 31. Although it was a modest 1-bedroom apartment in a respectable but unpretentious area, it was mine. I felt proud even though the mortgage payments were high and the down payment had consumed all of my savings. I made the decision to throw a housewarming celebration. I invited some neighbors, family, and co-workers. Her gaze flew about, absorbing every element of my new home when Natalie and Aiden arrived. With a brief congratulations, 14-year-old Aiden asked for my Wi-Fi password right away. Later, I heard Natalie speaking to one of our cousins in the kitchen as I was restocking the snack bowls. She doesn't deserve a place like this as much as Aiden and I do. It's us who are crammed into that small rental. I reached for the chips, but my hand froze. Even though her statement was unfair, I chose not to challenge her. I wasn't going to allow her to ruin my wonderful day. I saw a new pattern emerge throughout the course of the following year. Every time I visited Aiden, who is now 15, he started giving me car-related clues. It began quietly, with remarks about which models he found cool and references to classmates whose parents were already organizing their 16th birthday presents. I didn't give it much thought at first. The majority of teenagers become excited when they drive. However, I later saw that Natalie was sharing pictures of Aiden on social media, showing him standing next to brand new cars at dealerships. They began to appear with captions like, "Someone is getting excited about his birthday next year." Aiden was seen driving a brand new Audi in one picture which said, trying out his dream car. To make it happen, all we need now is a kind fairy godmother. I noticed it and laughed. It was almost laughable how transparent the manipulation was. A brand new vehicle? My budget had already been strained by the newest laptops and smartphones I'd given him over the years, but a car, especially the high-end vehicles they were posing with, was something else entirely. Natalie contacted 2 weeks prior to Aiden's 16th birthday to make sure I would be attending the celebration at our parents' place. Obviously, I said. I'd not miss it. Excellent, she said in a curiously upbeat tone. I take it you're bringing your gift? Something unique? I've got it covered, I said indifferently. Aiden is ecstatic, she added. He never stops discussing what his cool aunt could get him. I didn't fall for the ruse. Instead, I got Aiden the newest iPhone model online, which is a costly gift by any standard. I assumed it would be useful, something he would use on a daily basis. I sincerely hoped he would like it, so I had it wrapped as a present and placed a lovely card inside. When I got to my parents' house on the day of Aiden's celebration, I saw that it was crowded with Aiden's classmates, some of Natalie's friends and family. There were streamers and balloons everywhere, creating a joyous environment. Everyone gathered in the living room when it was time to exchange gifts. Video games, headphones, and gift cards were the first presents Aiden opened from his friends. He received an expensive watch from my parents. Natalie then gave him an envelope. "From me, dear," she murmured. After opening it, Aiden took out a card. There was a driving lesson voucher inside. He hugged her and whispered, "Thanks, Mom." Then he peered expectantly about. "Is it all?" "Emily still has her gift," Natalie said, her gaze riveted on me. When I gave Aiden the carefully wrapped present, everyone's eyes were on me. He accepted it, and even before he opened it, I saw a glimmer of disappointment on his face. He opened the box, tore off the paper, and gazed at the new iPhone. Then he suddenly threw the box with a thud onto the coffee table. "Really? Is this it?" There was silence in the room. My cheeks were burning with shame. I thought, "You could have given me something way better with your salary, Aiden." He cut me off with a loud, irate voice. "Everyone is aware of your enormous wealth." I gaped at him, taken aback by the arrogance in his voice, which was a reflection of his mother's mindset. With her arms folded, Natalie took a step forward. "She's too dumb," she remarked scornfully. "She brings this cheap, pitiful thing instead of the car we've been hinting you need for months." Something broke inside of me. I've been treated like an ATM for years. The rising expectations. The total absence of appreciation. Everything reached a boiling point. Everyone jumped when I slapped my hand down on the table. "Enough!" I yelled. "I've had enough of helping you and your son, Natalie. Over the years, I've donated thousands of dollars to cover everything from birthdays to classes, and this is the gratitude? I received demands for an automobile that are entitled?" I reached over to the table and picked up the iPhone box. "I'll take back my gift if you don't like it. However, I'm not purchasing a car." The room fell silent. Aiden had a startled expression. Anger had reddened Natalie's face. Our folks avoided eye contact and shuffled uneasily. As I gathered my jacket and bag, nobody said anything. My hands trembled on the steering wheel as I drove home in tears. I was shocked by what had just transpired. How did they treat me after providing me with financial support for 6 years? As if I were just a wallet with legs. As soon as I entered the room, my phone began to ring. "Natalie." I didn't answer the phone. Next, my mom. Turned down. My dad. Turned down. As if they were taking turns, they called one after the other. In an attempt to relax, I put my phone on quiet and poured a glass of wine for myself. When I checked my phone at around 9 p.m., I saw a ton of text messages and 12 missed calls. I opened them grudgingly. "Mom, you made us seem foolish in front of everyone, Emily. Give me a call back right now." "Natalie, you have no right to go like that. Aiden is inconsolable." "Dad, this is not how we brought you up. Your actions were dishonorable." "Natalie, once more, you're avaricious and self-centered." "They always were." "Aiden deserves a proper present and an apology from you." The messages kept coming, each one more damning than the one before it. None of them admitted that Aiden's response to an $1,100 phone might have been incorrect. Nobody gave the idea that I might be able to control how I spend my own money any thought. I didn't answer. I needed time to reflect. To take in the recent events. I ignored the lingering calls and messages and took Monday off from work to spend the day at my apartment. The texts had changed from being angry to being deceptive by Tuesday. "Mom, Emily, we are your family. In whatever situation, family remains united. Natalie, Aiden is quite agitated." To go to sleep, he sobbed himself. "He believes you despise him." Perhaps the guilt-tripping had worked in the past, but I had evolved. For the first time, I could clearly see the pattern. How they had gradually increased their demands. How my kindness had gradually been turned into a demand. Natalie gave me another call on Wednesday evening. I responded this time. At last, she yelled, "I've spent days attempting to get in touch with you." "I understand," I responded coolly. I needed some time to reflect. "Well, I've been coping with a grieving teen while you've been pondering." Natalie yelled, "Emily, you must put this right." "Exactly what should be made right?" "That I didn't get an automobile for your son." She let out a loud sigh. "We can get past this, you see. If you give Aiden the appropriate gift to make up for your apologies, he will accept it." "No, Natalie," I firmly responded. "I'm finished. Aiden won't be getting a car from me. Additionally, I will no longer be sending you money as of right now." Before she exploded, there was a moment of astonished quiet. "That is not possible. That money is essential to us. You're not allowed to interrupt us." "Natalie, it's my money. I am fully entitled." "You self-centered jerk." She let out a scream. I hung up after saying, "After everything we've been through, goodbye, Natalie." I blocked her number after that. I also blocked my parents. On social media, I blocked them all. I wanted a fresh start, an opportunity to set boundaries again free from their continual guilt and pressure. As promised, I stopped the monthly automatic payment to Natalie's account. It felt oddly freeing to keep the money that would have gone to her in my bank account. I had just gotten home from work the following day when I heard a loud banging on my apartment door. Through the peephole, I could see my mother and Natalie standing there, both of them looking irate. My mother said, "Emily, open this door now. We are aware that you are inside." Natalie said, hammering more forcefully, "Your car is outside." I stood silently and didn't answer. "You can't simply stop us," Natalie yelled from the door. "That money is necessary for Aiden's programming classes." My mother called and said, "This is childish, Emily. Open the door so we can have a reasonable conversation about this." At last, I opened the door and spoke. "I refuse to open it. I don't have anything to say to you too." My mother insisted, "You have no right to stop helping your sister. Families support one another." I answered, "I'm tired of being handled like an ATM. I've been assisting for 6 years. It's sufficient." Natalie gave the door a forceful kick. "That money is due to us," I said in a firm voice. "I owe you nothing. And I'll call the police if you don't leave now." "You be foolish," Natalie growled. I pulled out my phone. "Give me a try." They were talking to each other in whispers. At last, I heard footsteps moving back down the hallway. I remembered my mother's last words. "Emily, you'll regret this. In the end, family is all you have." In the days that followed, I found out from a cousin that Natalie and my parents were informing family members that I had abruptly and unjustly left them financially. They said that since I was selfish, I had betrayed my vow to get Aiden through college. Thankfully, the majority of our extended family was aware of this. They had personally witnessed the amount of money I had donated throughout the years. Even my Aunt Grace called to see how I was doing. "Emily, I was at Aiden's party," she added. "What took place wasn't correct. You've done them more than enough." Her assistance meant a great deal. However, things with my personal family continued to be difficult. In addition to my family responsibilities, I poured myself into my career, began treatment, and concentrated on reestablishing my social life. I had money to spend on myself guilt-free for the first time in years. I went on a brief vacation. A book club is what I joined. I resumed dating. There was no communication for 3 months. Then 6. I found out through family rumors that Natalie had to find a full-time job and move to a smaller apartment. Aiden had stopped taking classes in programming. My folks were whining about needing financial assistance. I occasionally felt bad, wondering whether I had been too severe. However, I would then recall Aiden's expression as he threw my gift away. Natalie's disdainful remarks. The treachery of my parents. I heard my name called as I was leaving my office building on a soggy Tuesday night, 6 months after the explosion. Aiden was standing by the door, drenched from the rain when I turned around. He was older than I remembered, taller and thinner. "Aunt Emily," he uttered in a deeper tone. "Can we have a conversation?" Startled to see him, I hesitated. "Is your mother aware of your presence?" He gave a head shake. "No, and I want it to remain that way." After examining him for a while, I nodded. "A coffee shop is located around the corner." After ordering drinks and finding a peaceful corner table, we strolled through the rain in silence. Aiden fidgeted with his cup as if he were anxious. At last I said, "I'm listening." He inhaled deeply. "I came to apologize. Regarding my birthday. Regarding my behavior. It was incorrect." His directness astonished me. "What caused this?" He grinned weakly and added, "Reality, I guess. Everything changed when you stopped sending money. Mom had a full-time job. I had to stop doing some things. I was first upset with you. Mom insisted that you were self-centered and that you would change your ways." He stopped and drank some of his hot chocolate. "However, you didn't. After a while, I began to reflect on all that you had done for us over the years, including the classes, the money, and the gifts." His eyes locked with mine, and I realized how much I had taken it all for granted. I realized this even more when I started working at the grocery store 3 months ago. Working for my own money changed my perspective. I had a range of feelings, including pride at his maturity, sorrow at the rift, and resentment that was still smoldering beneath the surface. "Thank you, Aiden, for expressing that. It has great significance. Will you pardon me?" He seemed younger, more like the boy I recalled, and asked. "Sincerely," I said. "I'm working on it. It goes beyond the birthday. It has to do with years of being treated as though I had a duty to provide for you and your mother. That was painful. He gave a nod. I get it. I simply miss you, and I want you to know that I've changed. I have no expectations of you. Something softened inside of me. I answered. We can work on repairing our relationship, but it will take time. His face flushed with relief. That is all I'm requesting. Is your mother aware that you work? I inquired. Yes, but she believes it's foolish and says I should be concentrating on my studies rather than squandering time for minimal wage. However, I enjoy making my own money. I grinned. Aiden, I'm proud of you for that. We spent an additional hour discussing his school, his friends, and his life since the fallout. Upon our eventual separation, he inquired, is there another time we can meet? Next week, perhaps? That would be nice, I answered. But for the time being, let's keep it between us. I'm not yet prepared to handle your mother or my own parents. He gave a nod. We will keep it a secret. I had a complex range of feelings as I watched him leave. Even though there was still a long way to go, that brief reunion felt like the start of something fresh. A partnership founded on respect for one another as opposed to monetary reliance. I felt hopeful for the first time in months. Aiden and I last had coffee together 8 months ago. We've established a schedule where we meet every 2 weeks. We go out to supper occasionally. At times we simply stroll across the city and converse. In this brief period he has matured and gained perspective, in addition to his physical growth. He told me last week, his face beaming with joy. I got promoted at the store. I currently work as a shift supervisor. Greater accountability. Greater compensation. That's amazing, Aiden, I responded with sincere pride. How does it feel? All right. Very good. He hesitated, then said, smiling shyly, I'm saving money for a used car. Just a dependable vehicle to travel around in. Nothing extravagant. I acknowledged the irony and nodded, but I remained silent. The Aiden who used to lose his temper over not receiving a fancy car for his birthday was no longer there. A reflective young man who saw the importance of striving for his goals took his place. I never ask for money in our chats and I never give it. Now the relationship is pure and founded on a sincere bond rather than monetary reliance. He occasionally confides in me about his difficulties or seeks my counsel, but never for money. And it's the difference that matters most. Ever since that day at my apartment door, I haven't spoken to either Natalie or my parents. I am aware that Natalie is still having financial difficulties because to Aiden and other family members. She constantly changes jobs and never seems to settle down. My parents continue to provide for her, paying Aiden's tuition and her rent when she is unable to. I occasionally question whether I should try to get in touch and repair those ties, but then I recall their treatment of me. Not in the role of a daughter, not as a sister, but as a resource that can be used for profit. The injury is too recent. The betrayal is too profound. I might be able to forgive them at some point. Not yet, though. I'm currently concentrating on taking care of myself, and the one familial relationship that has turned out to be valuable. Aiden hides our connection from both my parents and his mother. He once informed me, Mom still gets upset whenever your name is mentioned. Additionally, Grandma and Grandpa support her. If people are unaware that we communicate, it is simpler. With this new arrangement, I've discovered tranquility. My financial circumstances have greatly improved. I've been able to properly equip my flat, accumulate an emergency fund, and even begin organizing a genuine vacation, my first in years, without the burden of taking care of Natalie. More significantly, I've gained insightful knowledge concerning limits, regarding the distinction between exploitation and generosity, regarding the intricacy of familial relationships. I've discovered that saying no is sometimes the most loving thing you can do for other people as well as for yourself. I saw my mom in the grocery store last week. We looked at each other across the vegetable area. I briefly believed that she may come up to me, that there could be a chance for us to make amends. Rather, she reversed her cart and headed in the other direction. It was painful. However, I got it. Rebuilding certain bridges takes a long time. If at all they can be reconstructed. I'm not going to permanently close any doors. I'm not in a rush to open them, though. What transpires with those relationships will be revealed in due time. The problem with treachery is that retaliation isn't necessarily the outcome. Rebuilding oneself, choosing calm over chaos, and walking away are sometimes the true powers. I simply stopped responding. I didn't slam the door. And I found strength in that solitude. Establish boundaries if you've been harmed. Take your time healing. You owe no one access to your tranquility. Have you ever had to forgive someone who never apologized or leave relatives behind? I'd love to know how you discovered your strength, so please share your story in the comments section.